Hello everyone, Kenty Tiger here with Bengali Engineering in Play. I'll just add everything as I think about it. So the reason I'm a little stuttery here is because I'm watching the miner to try and figure out, is it really going to do what I hope it's going to do, and I'm not really sure it's gonna work. So what I'm doing is trying RDev's auto miner script, and I've been having a little issues, a little bit of issue with it. Not exactly doing what I am thinking it should do. Um, so whether that is by virtue of the script not working well or something genuinely conflicting with the script, I actually have no idea. So what I did was recreated the miner, um, and then put the script onto it, and I truly have no idea what the hell it's doing. So let's go in just for fun here to see what it's doing. The program block. Uh, so all it's saying is drift cancellation disabled. Outside the asteroid. This was kind of some of the same issues that I was having before. So here's my GPS. So if we bring up that particular GPS, let's just look at the X value, for example. So 431058, right? 431058. So let's remember that 431058. Then we jump back in here, 431058, right? So let's go ahead and look here at the drone miner. We're going to look at the program block, 431058. So it's got this. It's got the coordinates in here, the custom data. Coordinates are here, but it's wandering off to somewhere else. So I admit I'm a little disappointed. When I first tried this out, it seemed to work, and the next day I noticed there was an update, so I actually downloaded the update, and it worked, or rather didn't work. Anyway, the problem here is if you cut and paste, then what did that do? I'm curious now as to what this is actually doing. Can't find docking route. So here's the problem when you cut and paste: is you lose whatever this was, whatever this happens to be, and it still wants you to find a dock. So in this case, it's roaming off into places unknown because it's trying to dock. So the down and the dirty is not going to work for us, clearly. So for those of you who were on the last video, I had this random bug that came in where I was at full starboard thrust, which is to say all my port side thrusters, which are pushing me starboard, were just full. So the only thing I could do was counter by holding down the A, and I would eventually go, but I literally could not fly to port at all. I had to steer myself to go in any direction that I wanted to go. I did a save. When I reloaded, I had the exact same problem. I changed suits, changed back into, so I changed from Kenti suit into the astronaut suit. Lost 90% of my inventory, which was not so cool. Um, then had the same problem. Shifted back into the Kenti suit. Had the same problem. Um, Turned the jetpack off. Actually bounced myself off of the landing pad over here. When you turn off your jetpack and you're in space, your magnetic boots will come in. And I was shuffling sideways with even with my jetpack completely turned off, so it was like I had the A key, or rather the D key, being held down. And I brought up a notepad, because obviously notepad is if there's something being pressed, you're gonna see it, because Windows being Windows, if you're holding down a key, it's gonna repeat the key indefinitely. So no keys being mysteriously magically held. I have there's actually a keypad and a keyboard, both mechanical, attached to this particular computer. Nothing, not seeing anything, so I don't have a failure of the keyboards, and don't know. So magically, after I bounced myself off a few things, did some filth and florn, and then magically, poof, it stopped doing what it was doing. So could not begin to explain what it was. Just the D key being held down, basically, and magically it stopped. So now I'm back to semi-normal, at least as normal as Space Engineers ever is, and back to having it work. So interestingly enough, don't know. So clearly our auto mining is not going to work as planned. I really did have high hopes for this, because if I could do that, then I could just go out and do the auto mining, and that would be good. But clearly not going to happen exactly as planned. So the Drone Miner 2, the Drone Miner Victor 2, was a success from the perspective of we did manage to get it reconfigured to work. So still a drone miner, still the 4-drill type miner, and the only thing we didn't actually get to see whether it worked or not was how well does it take material in and in fact move it. So what I could do here, just for fun, in fact, let's go to another reasonably large asteroid that's close. This one may not be really close, but usually, and this is not necessarily always, but usually when you see these ones that look like they've been leather punched, they actually have some ice with them. So ice is always a good thing. And we'll turn around in just a minute here to see exactly how far away we are. This is a pretty good sized asteroid here. I may actually be seeing another asteroid farther on. Alright, so we're 7 kilometers away, which isn't bad. So what I do want to find out here, this was actually the one I was looking at, which looks like it's a completely different asteroid. So we have iron here, clearly. Let's see what else we might have. That's about it, it looks like. Oh, we might have something else in here. This is something. Might be silver. So let me go ahead and pull out my drill, I think. Do I have... Yes, I do. Go ahead and get rid of those things there. Don't need that. In fact, let's go ahead and clear out that whole thing. So, let me pull up this thing. Silicon, I think is what that looks like. Silicon and iron, looks like. So, here's one of the things to... This was a tidbit given by some other players that whenever you're mapping asteroids, which is really to say the content in the asteroids, one of the things you have to remember is these are all procedurally generated. And what does that mean? Well, a procedure is a new programming tool. The idea is that in a world where you have a finite space, and this is, I'm talking programming space here, then we have these, I want to call them object designators. And what it is there is an object here. So graphically we put that in and say there is an object here. In reality, which is to say in our data files themselves, there's nothing there. It's a marker. It says this thing is here. And because that marker is there, we can dump that marker into the procedural generation and say, okay, procedurally this is what we're going to do with this marker. This is what the marker is. And so if we make a change to this fictitious, this virtual thing, then it will become a real thing. And we will use a procedure to generate that thing. So we change it from a virtual to a real by a procedure. Therefore, we call it a procedural process. So all of these asteroids in the game now don't actually exist until you touch them. Once you touch them, and what I mean by touch is you affect them in some way, then that asteroid goes through the procedural engine and it is generated for what it is. So I'm here. It is, I have detectable ores, which is the silicon here in front of me and the iron, and there may be actually something over here. Not sure what this is. More silicon. So either way, silicon is a good thing. So so these have gone through the first stage of the procedural process and actually figured out, okay, if the player does something, this is what these are going to be right now. But here's the issue. So let's just say I do a GPS and I say this has silicon and iron. So great stuff. I've done my investigation and I've marked this particular asteroid as silicon and iron because that's what I see. The problem is it's still virtual. So in this instance, this is what it came up with. This is the type of asteroid it is, and it has iron and silicon. But if I don't actually touch it, it still remains in this virtual world, and the next time I load my game in, it's still virtual. So it dumps it back into the procedural engine, and it might actually come up with platinum and iron next time. So whenever you do a GPS point, create your GPS point. You know, so I'm in this asteroid. I GPS new from current position, and we're going to call this I guess we could just call it by the what's in it, iron and silicon, right? Or do we call this ore, asteroid? Maybe we'll do it that way. Asteroid and then FESI. So we have created our GPS point. And the next thing we want to do is pull out our drill and drill into it. Okay, we definitely have some problems here. And one of those problems is that my auto ore pickup is no longer working. Which is really kind of strange. So, what have I done? I put a hole in this, very small hole, but because I put a hole in it, I now took this asteroid and the procedural engine, you didn't see anything on the screen, but the procedural engine now dumped this asteroid into the data of the game. So when I do my save, it's actually going to save this asteroid as an item in the game. And let me, this is going to be a little hard to see, but what I want to do is bring up SE Toolbar or SE Toolbox, and if you haven't used this, you really, this gives you a lot of really unique tools, and I don't want to turn this into a tutorial on SE Toolbox because other YouTubers out there have done this. Other space engineers have done this. Well, that's not working out so well, is it? There we go. So what I want to do is the world here is coming up. So I'm going to do a Control R, which is actually going to reload the world here, and this is going to take a second. And what I want you to do is see the world as it exists. So if we look over here, and I know this is really hard to see, we have the one asteroid here, and this is actually the asteroid over by the station. Okay, so you don't see anything else. You see planets. We see a couple large ships and stuff like that. So so only one asteroid. Okay, and let me go back into the game here. So we have, like I said, we put a hole here, which was the hole in the silicon here, and okay, sorry about that pause. I was having a little fight with Alexa. Okay, so we have bored a hole in a virtual asteroid, which has now turned it into a real asteroid, and I want to demonstrate that. So we have put our hole into it. I'm going to do a quick save. We're going to go back into SE Toolbox because it will allow us to pull up the data in our save game. So we go back into SE Toolbox here. I'm going to do a Control R, which is a reload. Now look at the screen here. This was the save game that we had right before we did our quick save. So you see there's one asteroid in there, which was that pre-generated asteroid that I put in. So here was the reload. There's the reload start. And now you notice we have asteroid and then this funky designator here. Let me go ahead and roll this out. So we have this designator here of the asteroid that we just created. Now, because we bored the hole into it, it became real. It became part of the data. So it's always what it was right then. Okay? So once I bore the hole into it, it changes from virtual to real, saves it as part of your data, and boom, it's done. So whenever you do a GPS marker, always drill a hole, whether it be in the stone, anything else, it doesn't matter. But the second you alter the virtual in any way, it becomes real, and now it's part of your save game data. So that's just one of those things that there's been a lot of confusion and a lot of, in fact, frustration, because you do all your diligent work, you figure out what all these different asteroids in every direction are, and you GPS mark them so you can find them later, and then indeed you come back to them later and discover, well, damn, none of this stuff is here anymore. You know, I came here, I brought my miner here, and this is, but it's not here. Oops. So that's the rub. So changing from virtual into real, very simple process actually. Just remember to do it. Just part of your process when you're doing the surveying. Go to that asteroid, figure out what's there. It's virtual. You can GPS mark it and everything, but put a hole in it. Just make a ding. It doesn't even matter what you do to it, as long as you alter it in some way from the pristine original condition. Boom, it becomes real. It shifts from virtual to real as it is right there in front of you, and then it saves it as data. Now you can figure out what it is, and now it will come back exactly as it was in your save game. So, fun stuff. Procedural is great, but it has these little limitations that you kind of have to pay attention to. All right, now that we know where that is, I don't think silicon is necessarily the most important thing. So we had a couple of asteroids here, and I'm trying to think, where were we when we saw that? I guess it was this one. It had this really neat blue hue to it. So trying to see where it is. Obviously I'm coming out on the other side, so might be that one. Is definitely a ways away, so let me go over to this side and see if I just change angles and figure out where that one was. And there's, of course, the possibility that whatever that one was that I was looking at is gone, because they are, after all, procedurally generated. Maybe that one was it. So we'll go over here. Could be just a whole lot of stone. I do see iron here. I see iron and uranium here. So I see these little pieces. I don't know if there's actually a hole somewhere, but I am detecting, and silicon I'm detecting. So there's some uranium. So we know uranium, silicon, and we had some iron up here. There we go. So we can see everything. Silicon there, very close, obviously. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and GPS mark this one as well. So new from current position. And this one is the same thing. Asteroid. We are seeing iron, silicon, and uranium. There's uranium. I'm forgetting what uranium is. This is the uranium, right? Maybe the maybe the auto collect script is working here. Silicon. I thought that was uranium. Maybe it is. Maybe it is working as silicon. So let's try and find the uranium once again. Uranium is pointing over here. So let's go ahead and see if we can find uranium. 5 meters. Oh, there is a way in. Here we go. Uranium. Yeah, so I was thinking for whatever reason that these are these graphic things. Yep. Oh, just you. Okay. That's why it looked a little silly. So let's go ahead and update this to just be the U. Now, the good news is here, just like I was explaining, now that I've actually altered this, then I can do a control F5. There actually may be other stuff. Is this ice? Nope, just stone. So we're seeing a lot of really good stuff. Silicon, iron, and uranium. Can't go wrong with any of those. Control F5. And just to demonstrate, just for the fun, let's go ahead and Control R here in SE Toolbox because it actually loads up pretty quick. And we'll show you now. We should see three asteroids in here. So we have the original asteroid here that we did, and then these two procedurally generated ones. So you saw we only had the one last time, now we have two. So this is actually, because I bored a hole in this, just altered it in any way, bounced off sideways and chipped off a rock. Doesn't matter what you do to it, as long as you do something to it, then it will generate that. So we run it through the procedural engine, and then we actually turn it into real data. And now it's data that will be saved as is. It won't dump it back through the procedural engine because it's already done that. So now it's part of your save game data. All right, get back into the game here. Turn my tab on. All right, so there's two asteroids here that we've seen. One asteroid there. We are now a little ways away from... so I think I'm going to go up here to this one and figure out what it is. Just because it's kind of on the way. I see iron. Iron, of course, is everywhere. So we have iron and platinum. So let's see if we can actually roll up and see where the platinum is. Oh, and cobalt. Okay, this is a good find. So, iron, cobalt, and platinum. Back into our GPS. So we have a new from current position. Take our new from current position, and we call this asteroid. And we have, in this case, cobalt, iron, and platinum. Now, why do I name things the way I do? I try to do them alphabetically, and sometimes I can do that in my head, and sometimes I can't because I can be really, really stupid, especially before I have my third pot of coffee. So, in this case, I'm trying to do them all. We know we have platinum, we know we have cobalt, and of course iron is very abundant. and we do use a lot of iron. But so anyway, now GPS marked. So all that is left for us to do is actually put just a little bit of a hole in this thing, so we turn it into an actual asteroid. So we have just a tiny bit of platinum here, we have some uranium, we have a bunch of silicon there, and then we'll do a Shift F5 because I want to save this, and then now this asteroid is part of our universe. Alright, so we have a bunch of asteroids. Obviously, way over this direction is where we ultimately want to end up again, because we're wanting to head back over to our base. So I'm going to hit this one on the way, I think. It looks like it's a little ways out here, which it is, but we're still kind of coming closer. I'm going to stop here for just a second and reevaluate here. Yeah, we're still, I have no idea where we're going to find here, but that's the whole fun of this, right? So we really were, the whole goal here was to test out the new miner. So let's see what we got here. This is done some really strange things. So we see iron, not a surprise. Big chip out of the side here. But we have something else in the middle here, and we'll figure out what this is. So we see iron and more platinum, in fact. So interestingly enough, we've discovered a lot of platinum here. So I'm going to go ahead and GPS mark once again. GPS new from current position. We're going to go to that new one. ASTEROID, and this is iron and platinum. So we have some new platinum discovery. Now, in the process of this, as always, we just want to bore a simple hole in here, change this in some way, bang, bang, bang. Okay, mine a little bit, just make a dent, make a hole, bounce off it, and chip a rock with your faceplate. It doesn't matter what you do as long as you do something. So iron and platinum. So we are about 6 kilometers away from home base here, and all these different GPS coordinates. The asteroids, of course, as I said, are procedurally generated. They are everywhere. They're endless. Which is actually kind of neat when you're doing a survival world, and you're out in space. Then you have this endless supply of resources. Now, endless being a little bit relative here is that you notice that we have discovered 4 different materials, right? So we've discovered iron, which is extremely abundant. We've discovered cobalt. We've discovered platinum. And uranium. But we have 10 different materials that we might need at any given time, in any given quantity. So even though I've bounced around to now 4 different asteroids, I've only found 4 different materials. If I need all 10 materials, that means I'm going to bounce around a little bit. So endless, yes, they're everywhere. But finding the material you need may be a bit of a challenge. So that's the matter of going to all these different ones. Now, I'm zooming around here with my jetpack. Not necessarily the most efficient way. The Kenti suit, which is what I'm wearing now, is quite a bit more efficient in the gases. So there's some realism that I have inserted in the game according to my perspective of what is real and what isn't. One of the things that I have gripe and complaint about the Keen software is we are after 2077. So technologies being what they are, we have a lot of different propulsion systems today that are extremely efficient in how they use fuel, our thrust to weight ratios, and all that sort of thing. And on a planet, we run out of fuel in from full to falling out of the sky in about 35 seconds. To me, I found that to be a little bit realistic. Yes, gravity being what it is, how much fuel does it take to actually suspend you in gravity? So yes, you will burn fuel, but given the efficiency of the different propulsion systems that we have even today, and if we look at today, let's just call it 2020 versus almost 2080. So we're 60 years into the future. I would think that if we have enough technology to get us into space and to get us far, far away from our solar system, that we would actually have had technologies which would in fact be extremely efficient in how it uses fuel. Because after all, getting from Earth into the stars, we've been doing that since the 60s. So getting us there is not necessarily the problem. Getting us home is a much larger problem. And the reason that's a much larger problem is because everything we take with us is what we have to use to get us home. And 9 times out of 10, the vast majority of that problem is the fuel that we have on board. We can only use so much fuel to get us into space, which is why we have those booster rockets. So we use those booster rockets, we expend them, and then dump them off, which then changes our thrust to weight ratio because we have ejected those things. And then we have also burned the fuel that was in them rather than the fuel that we're carrying with us. So we've actually expended a certain amount of fuel to get us into space and ejected that weight at the same time. And we still have all of that other fuel that we can now use while we're in orbit or to return. So it's a function of the amount of fuel that we have. So my theory is that by 2080 or even 2077, if we have figured out how to get to other solar systems, which clearly this is, there are 6 planets here. Our solar system has many more than that. They are similar to ours. The sun obviously is similar, the same yellowish light, so similar to ours. But obviously the asteroid fields are different, so this solar system is clearly different than ours. The orbital mechanics is different. The planets are much closer together in this case. So I am 956 kilometers from this Earth-like planet. And while it's hard to see, here's this desert-like red planet, which means it's very Mars-like, which is about the same distance. So we're talking 1,000 kilometers. So me driving from, the East Coast to the middle of the United States, and I have effectively crossed the distance from this planet to this planet. So clearly this particular solar system is much different. So I figure we would have, in 60 years, figured out how to be much more efficient than even today. So that's my theory. So I created the Kenti suit to match what I believe to be a little more realistic perspective. All right, now platinum, iron, cobalt, silicon. Oh, sorry, we have discovered, in fact, 5. Okay, so we have cobalt, iron, platinum, and silicon, which is 4, uranium, which is 5. So we've actually discovered 5 different ones. So all great, fine and dandy. See if we can find another asteroid reasonably close. Maybe maybe just cruise out here to this one here. Now the other thing I did that's within my mod here is to set the game speed up a little bit. And I didn't do it up very far because you get out there into the 200 range and all of your gyros will lock up, and other aspects of your vehicles will lock up and start behaving really, really bizarrely. So use those speed mods very judiciously. They may behave in ways that you are not expecting. In fact, behave in ways you don't want them to behave. So this one, yeah. So we have 4 in a little cluster here, and we're going to go to. So this one has ice on it. Just you can see from the reflective. So that maybe I want to go there, and actually you see another one here with ice that maybe or may not be further out. Obviously the distance in which you're traveling is a little different, and I'm seeing it travel faster, which means it is the closer one to me. So I'm going to go ahead and go to that one first, just because I know there's ice here, and it looks like there's gold here as well, so this may be a really good find. Yeah, so we have ice. Should be able to get close enough here for us to be able to see that. Well, at some point, let me just bounce off of it. There we go. And strangely enough, we have platinum as well. So this asteroid is yet another magnificent find. So I'm going to go ahead. So we've got iron, we have gold. According to this, we have platinum, which is right here. So let's mark this. So GPS, this is yet another asteroid. So ASTER asteroid, and this has. So I'm going to just write it down. So AU is gold. Sorry, AU is gold. Platinum. Iron, and ice. Okay, and now I'm going to back up just a little bit and put these into alphabetical order. Ice and platinum. All right, so a lot of really neat things here. And then, of course, as always, what we have to do is actually bore a hole here. So we're going to go ahead and do this. Okay, so these are all the graphical ones here. So I should have added a little bit of ice and, of course, stone, which we can actually work with stone. So what I have done on the station, our station over here, is, whoa, we're a long ways from the station. But that's okay, because we can work with it. So let me go ahead and just for the fun of it, this is all stone probably. There we go. So I probably, yeah, taken quite a bit of stone in. But I have extractors, which basically they take. So stone goes through the refineries and becomes gravel, right? So we crush it down into gravel. And then gravel can actually go into these, it's a mod device that's, it's called trace element extraction. Pretty simple concept. So stone is a mineral lattice, and in stone there are a lot of different trace elements. So what it does is it breaks down the stone, which is really to say it breaks down the gravel. So the gravel is processed. It takes that gravel and then breaks it down into trace elements, which means we have all these different other ores, but it's trace ores. They're just tiny, tiny portions. Which means now we have these ores that we can dump back into the refineries, and then the refineries will change that into these usable products. So it's kind of this two-stage process. So stone, which is considered an ore, turned into gravel, which is a processed product, goes through the extractors, goes back into all the different types of ores, and then eventually into the finished product of all these different trace element ores. So we really can use stone. And in fact, we do need a certain portion of gravel, because things like reactor components, for example, do need a certain amount of gravel to build them, and there's at least one other that does need gravel, and it might be like gravity generator components or something like that. But there's two different components that I remember that actually need that actually need gravel. All right, so I have this one marked. I wanted to go back over to, if I can find it, I think it was this one here, and figure out what this one was. And I think I'm actually going to pull out the miner, and mess a little bit with this one, just because it's big. I can make a few dents in this without probably any issues at all. Okay, but strangely, I'm not coming up with anything. This may just be stone. So this may be a big ball of nothing. Nope, we have at least iron here. Yep, so we have at least iron. What I was looking for is a hole. Most of these guys have a hole of some kind. That lets you see, and with the hole you can actually, travel. There's a little bit of a hole, which we can see the iron. May just lead out the other side. Yeah, it does. Alright, so in any case, we know at the very least that there is an abundance of iron here. My guess is there's going to be quite a bit of iron here. So what we can do is mark this as iron. So just to bring up something, so we can get to our GPS coordinate new from position, and asteroid, and at the very least we have a bunch of iron. Alright, because this particular one is the one I'm going to use to go ahead and test out the new miner, then we're going to go ahead and paste that into the world. This is Drone Miner 2, version 2, and we're going to go ahead and paste that into the world. I guess we'll paste it like that. Now, the interesting thing about the drone miners is these are unmanned, so I have to control these from external, which is always a little bit of a challenge. So in this case, I'm going to bring up my menu here. I'm going to go to drone miner. I go to the remote control. This button here is the control button. So by pushing this, I'm now in control of this miner. Now, if I push 3 is my forward camera, so you can see camera forward view. And then my mouse control in this case is on that particular camera, so I can actually see. So my I just turned my drills on, and even though the camera is a bit forward here, and I'm seeing nickel, so I do need to update my GPS. So even though I'm on the far side here, I'm going to go ahead and drill towards that nickel, And remember, all I need to do is make a dent in this. So I should see, when I get close enough, I should see some material coming away as I first start drilling here. There we go. Now, one of the things that I wanted to test here is, so let me go into K. The cargo teleport system here, so strangely enough, this may be off. Okay, on, drain all. Okay, so that's what I really wanted to see. So if I have inventory, which strangely enough is not showing up here anywhere. So drill right now, we see some activity. We see some stone coming through, and you see it all vanishing. And we also see that we're going into the teleporter and then instantly out of the teleporter again. So the teleporter is actually working. It's pulling in all that material and then transmitting it over to my station, which is exactly what I wanted it to do. So in this case, again, we just want to slowly move ourselves forward. I'm still going to keep my orientation on the nickel. Even though there's a lot of stuff here in the front. So I actually have control of my spotlights. So my spotlights on, there's off. The other thing I can do here is T to cancel my view. And in fact, oddly enough, we completely disconnected. So that's one of the other, you can now see exactly how big this is relative to us. So let me go ahead and change this this GPS. So this one was just iron, and now we know we have some nickel there too. Now that we have a little more advanced detector there. All right, so that is now updated. We're going to go ahead and do a Shift F5 to quick save. And we're going to take control of this guy, but we're actually going to be back just a little bit so we can watch what's happening. Just to bring up this particular screen, back to the drone miner, down to the remote control, and I know this button here is control. So I have now taken control, but I'm actually using the perspective, the view perspective of the player character here. So W to move forward slightly, and then drill a little bit more. So as I bore into this slowly, I don't want to go too fast because obviously the drills are not necessarily going to be able to bore at the same pace that this thing can put a hole into the side of this thing. So once again, back to my forward camera. So I see I'm 9 meters away. Camera actually is a little too close to the front because of all this stuff. 7 meters away. And now I'm actually into the nickel. So this yellow stuff is nickel. Which is actually what I wanted. So I just wanted to drill in far enough to see the nickel. Let's go into K once again to bring up my, really just to get to my inventory. And then I want my teleporter, and I can see we're moving, or I thought we were moving a lot of stone. And that may just be because I do have an awful lot of stone to play with there. So let's go ahead and bring up this entire inventory, hide the empty. So this is actually what our current problem is. We have a lot of stone in here, and we have a lot of material, nickel. But the question is this still working? I'm not seeing any movement currently. So backing off just a hair. So the idea here, and we'll go ahead and shut the drills down. The idea is to see if we can so hide empty once again, and I just want to see if any of these are moving. And it almost doesn't look like we are. So let's go ahead, while we're in control of this, back completely out of the asteroid. So the two things that we have done here, we've actually found the source of nickel. So we've bored our hole down to the nickel. We know that there is nickel and iron here. We have altered the asteroid physically, which means now it's part of our world. So we'll go ahead and do a Shift F5 to quick save, T to bounce out of this and get back into me. In this case, I now have to figure out what has happened here to make. Why are we not transmitting anymore? So originally it looked like we were transmitting just fine, and then we just kind of stopped. And I don't know why we just kind of stopped. So that was a little weird. So what I did was just dump my stone, or sorry, the ice that I had in my inventory into the gas generator, because obviously we as we do thrust and everything, it's trying to refill. It is keeping the hydrogen tank full, which is a good thing, so the first thing I want to do, go ahead and make sure this is all to me, which it is, and then figure out why this is not doing what it is supposed to be doing. Strange. So for some reason, this is not working. And let me go ahead and look into this container here. Okay. We have stone and cargo transmit not working there either. Strange. Which means we may have some issues out here on the station. Alright, so the good news is we have, at least I think we have, let me check one more thing. So ownership is not a problem. I know what the problem is. The problem is this. So, broadcast radius, 10,000 meters, right? 10 kilometers. Let's have a look.
Energy critical.
If we look here, our station is 17 kilometers away. 17 kilometers away. the cargo transmit system uses antennas. So even though the transmit and receive antennas on the station are set at 50 kilometers, the ones on here are set at 10. So let me go ahead and roll this up to the entire 50, and if my theory is correct, then we should start to see some movement. And indeed, we did. We just cleared out the drills. So let's go ahead and look at everything empty. And you see we just totally emptied out everything. So this is a good thing. So that is, in fact, what was wrong. I'm going to go ahead and put that in. You see that's all disappearing. So we're transmitting all of that back to the station. All right, which was exactly what I wanted to have happen. So this ended up being, this was my own oops. So, whoops. All right, so once again, now that we have figured out what's wrong with the drill here, then we'll go back into the drill, and I think we're just going to bore straight through the middle of this thing. So, RC, we're going to take control here. Take control. We're going to go ahead and turn the drills on, and we're going to go ahead and do a 3, which is a camera, and then we're going to move ourselves right back into the same thing here. And this time, I think now we will not end up with this problem. And if we bring up our inventory here, then we should in fact see all of the drills instantly bringing in and then shifting out material. So my goal here is just to drill all the way through, and unfortunately mining takes a little bit of energy, patience, that you really kind of have to just endure. And one of the things that I think I'm going to do now that I tested the drill here, in fact maybe I should go ahead and do that, which is to say test one of the other drill machines. So let me go ahead and back out. So drone miner, meaning that it is unmanned, but I'm controlling it remotely. So I am away from it, but I'm controlling it remotely. So let me turn the drills off. I'm going to go into inventory. I want to make sure all the stuff here has gone out of it, which it is. So it has transmitted successfully over to the station. Then we do a T, which unfortunately disconnects us. So having tested this, we're going to go ahead and do an X to get rid of this. We're going to do a T, and we're going to replace the clipboard. And the reason why is I've made that one change. So I put the script into this thing, and it didn't work out so well. So that was my smaller, or my larger small grid drill ship. Huh, that was strange. Okay, so what did I delete here that I didn't want to delete? Okay, there's this. So delete, yes. So the medium miner in this case is actually a large ship grid. So large grid miner. It's 49 drills on the front. And the only thing it is missing actually is the cargo teleporter. That's the only thing that's there. But this is the one I wanted to really kind of test out. So I'm going to paste this in the world. This is a modded miner, so this is using Kenti mod. So the couple things I want to look at here, and I'm just going to go ahead and get into this because this is a manned capable mod. So get into this. You notice that we're entirely powered down, which is all fine and dandy, but I want to see what's in here. So let me go ahead and get all the hidden stuff. So obviously we're using, this is atmospheric capable, but it does use hydrogen thrusters. So we have a boatload of batteries. We have all the different cameras. We have a cargo container. We have the teleporter already built in. We have the cargo transmit already built in, so we are correctly configured here. We have a singular connector, which happens to be on the bottom. We have 14 different drills, and then container. So what I really wanted to find out here is was this, and this is already set up to 50, which is good. So currently we're powered off. So a Y, which should power us on here. So if I go to a V, then we should see that we have indeed powered up. Right now I think the atmospheric thrusters are turned off. They may not be. In this case it has a refinery on board, a mini refinery on board. So I'm going to turn that off. 8 in this case is my transmitter, my cargo transmitter. And in fact I have so we have nickel, which we knew about, and we have silver and uranium here as well. 400 or 305 meters away and 276 meters away. So we in fact are detecting something that's not in front of us. Maybe rather than messing any more time here, and I think I'm going to bump into something. So this uranium here is what I really want to find. Silver. Well, maybe that is here. So we are detecting, in fact, silver and uranium, all on this asteroid, and it does appear as though it's here. So let's go ahead and bore into this. So here's my forward view. I'm going to turn these drills on, and we're going to head for the silver. So we have silver, iron, and uranium here. So let me go ahead and modify, find my mouse cursor here. So this one is nickel. So we have silver, which is Ag, and uranium, right? So the Ag goes here in the front, which is always a nice thing, and then the uranium at the end here. So this is another really nice, multiple find. So let me line up on the silver here, and then start boring through. Now my refinery here is on, or sorry, the refinery is off, but the transmitter is on. So the idea here is that I will always be able to transmit all the material that I'm mining here right back to the station, and then the station can deal with it how the station deals with it. So I can just carry on mining. So as long as I have ice, which is to say oxygen for me, and power, so uranium, then I'm all good. And this is a 14 drill, so here's we're getting into our silver now. This is a 14 drill miner. So if I go V here, and So Alt and mouse wheel will back me off a little bit, and then change a little bit. You can see as I'm boring into the thing, obviously I'm hitting and so this is a modded miner, yes. So the structure of this miner actually is modded. However, it's using standard drills. Okay, so I haven't done anything with drills on this particular. Whoa. And because the Kenti thrusters are really hot. So 9 times out of 10 when I'm playing and actually doing mining, mining is one of those tedious tasks. Okay. Hold that thought. I just looked at my time and I'm way over on my time, which is really to say 11 minutes over on my time. So this is a good place to stop because I'm just babbling anyway. So this is Kenti Tiger signing off. Thank you for watching, and we will catch you next time.